mind immediately.
Sounds good. All right, hey everybody, we are live. We have the OG panel celebrating our 7 years of LitRPG existence.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy.
I will let everybody introduce themselves, and we'll start with Daniel Shinhofen because he's directly to the right of me on the screen.
I thought you were just
your left.
I thought you were just throwing the ugliest guy under the bus first. Now I understand. I just happened to be in the wrong spot.
What are
Got
you
it.
talking about? That beard is glorious. That
It's the only-
alone gives you like.
It's the only thing I got going for me,
Yeah.
James. It's the only thing I got going for me.
That and your shining personality, sir.
I thought you were going to say shining baldness. Thank you. You scared me for a minute.
Your shining beard.
I feel like you shine from every angle. Is basically what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, especially the glasses. They like to reflect a lot. My name is Daniel Shinhofen. I've been in the genre since almost near the beginning. I published my first book a little after Dr. Kong down there.
Mm.
Not
7 years.
long after,
Crazy.
but a bit after. I do have to follow in some big footsteps in that case. I've written 40-odd books over the many years we've been doing this.
Damn.
And most of my
Mhm.
books have a tendency to run more towards the adult/risky/lewd side, which puts me well away from everybody else on this panel. I'm sensing a theme in that, actually. I'll hand it over to one of the cleanest men that I've ever read, Dakota.
Hi
He's
guys,
so wholesome.
I'm Dakota Kraut. I write in LitRPG cultivation and game-lit titles, and so I like Shinhofen just mentioned. I definitely write a lot more clean. Try to keep it family friendly, just so I can get it into as many places as possible. Is my goal. I have been writing in this genre since 2016, and I'm just shy of 40 books written now, just shy, but getting real close. And so I run Mountain Dale Press, and I'm the owner and president, and we have a bunch of amazing authors, and down to the OG, right? So down to Alaron.
Hey, I'm Alaron. I'm a physician by training, but I fell in love with this genre, back in 2015, so like right around there, and it inspired me to write my very first book, In the Land, which sort of took off, and I've got 9 books out so far. The 8th one got me on the Wall Street Journal bestsellers list, which was mind-boggling for me, and I don't know, when I fell in love with the genre, I knew that I decided I wanted to write on it. Like that was part of it, but the other part was like growing the genre and just like seeing all these awesome people that have been in it for years, and all the people that I'm sure like every one of these people on here is inspired to like write. Like it's kind of a dream come true, just kind of looking around. So it's cool to be here. It's good to see you guys.
Up next is Tao.
Hi there, I'm Tao Wong. I'm not necessarily sure why I'm on this panel because I'm not actually full OG compared to these guys. I started in
you're
about
definitely here, man.
2017, so about a couple of years later. So probably second or third wave, depending on if you
Firmly
consider.
second wave, Tao. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt.
Well,
here,
I'm just thinking about the Russians, right? So the Russians first, and then Aileron, and then my group that came on a little bit right after James and Dakota and Daniel and basically all you guys on here. But I've been writing since 2017. I think I've got 34, 35 books out. I kind of lose count. After a certain point, it just doesn't matter. Your books.
All right. To me, I'm James Hunter. I've been writing LitRPG since 2016. I've written. I feel like the 30-something book mark it kind of holds true for a lot of us. I'm in the 30s as well. Like Tao, I've sort of lost track. I'm probably best known for a couple of series. This is Viridian Gate Online. It's a complete series, 8 books, big expanded universe. Rogue Dungeon is another one that I did with my good buddy Eden Hudson. And my newest book is this one, Visual Justice, which is LitRPG, Marine transported to another world, gets a license to hunt monsters, super fun. I also run Shadow Alley Press with my wife, Jeanette. We are, like Mountain Dale, one of the few publishers that specialize in LitRPG, game lit, and progression fantasy. So we have a host of other authors that we work with, and a big part of that, I think, is just our love for the genre. I think Alron has done everyone on this panel has done really amazing things to help push this genre forward and bring it into new territory, to bring it into new communities. And that's one of the things that I love about this genre and this community is that all of us, we work together because we realize that the boat is big enough for all of us to have space on it. And it's just such a fantastic community, has been from the start. And I'm just so privileged and lucky to be a part of it.
Awesome. I guess we'll jump straight into some questions.
Well, before we do, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Brent Roth. He was one of the very, very first LitRPG authors who wrote an amazing trilogy, Dragon's Wrath, and we think he's passed on, but I think he was really pivotal for a lot of us. And I just like to remember his name. It's awesome, dude.
About to say, I'm not sure you can even find Dragon's Wrath on Amazon.
It's off
anymore.
of Amazon.
It's gone, yeah.
It's off Amazon.
If you didn't get it, you missed out. That's for sure.
Which is very sad. So that was actually going to lead right into that first question, though. What was some of your early LitRPG influences, and why did you start writing LitRPG? For those of you that it didn't really exist when you started.
The very first person I ever found was D.W. Jackson, and it was actually sort of a LitRPG serial that he was putting out that kind of went off the rails. Like,
is that the Reborn?
Yeah, the Reborn.
Yeah.
But I loved it. Like, I started reading it and I was like, how have I never had this in my life before? Video games and sci-fi fantasy books. Like, why did this never occur to me before? And it just sort of fell in love with it. And honestly, I think that like the fact that it was just like him and a couple other people that I basically consumed immediately, including a couple Russian translations, which were barely English. They were definitely Google Translate that I still read. And I kind of just got tired of complaining there wasn't anything else out there and just decided to give it a shot because I'm like, well, why not? And that's what sort of, jump started me but yeah, I immediately fell in love with it. Still do.
I'll go next. I want to give a quick shout out though to Charles Dean, who's listening in. Charles Dean is also, he's been in this thing a long time. The Bathroom Night series, he's done Death's favorite Warlock, I think is the series he's currently working on, but also great guy, great writer. So what's up, buddy? For me, I was actually writing full-time when I discovered LitRPG. I had been writing urban fantasy, and I still write urban fantasy occasionally. I had written probably 3 or 4 books throughout 2015 into 2016 when I discovered my first LitRPG title. It had a terrible cover, and I remember picking it up because I was like, what is this, and why is Amazon recommending it to me? And I remember reading through it. I want to say that my very first one was actually Way of the Shaman, which didn't have a terrible cover, but I remember reading through it and getting to the end and just being wildly confused because it was so weird, and it was like nothing I had ever read before. And I was like, and I remember thinking to myself, God, this is the weirdest thing. And also, where can I get more of this? And so I remember just like in sort of this confused haze, like reading through all of the Way of the Shaman stuff that was out. And then I remember reading D. Russ's Play to Live. And then I discovered the American authors. I found Alaron. I remember reading Travis Bagwell's Awaken Online, Luke Chemelenko. And that was kind of it that was out there. I had started writing pretty shortly after that because I had just fallen in love with the genre. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I didn't realize that it would be what it has turned into. And it was really like a passion project for me while I was writing my urban fantasy stuff, just because I was enthralled with the genre. So yeah, it started very early on as just sort of a passion project, and I feel just privileged like that I still get to do it as a passion, and also support myself.
Let's jump over to Tao and finish up the bottom row.
All right. So I actually entered LitRPG a bit differently from people. I was watching a lot of anime at the time. So I watched Konosuba and Danmachi at that time. So, Is It Wrong? Pick Up Girls, and Grimgar. And then I started reading the light novel. So Grimgar of Ashes and Fantasy and Ashes. So great series, Log Horizon.
Mhm.
And I went,
yeah.
I wonder if someone's actually writing stuff like this, and so I started searching. Somehow or another, I stumbled onto Royal Road, and Luke's Chilamenko's work was up on there. James's work, VGO, Cosimo Yap's The Game was up there too.
Cosmo, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
such a great work.
Yeah.
And and a whole bunch of others that never really managed to, continue onwards. And I read all of these and I went, you know what? I bet I could write something. And because I started from light novels and whatnot, I started writing The Adventures of Brad, the Healer's Gift series. And that's the first one that I wrote. Along the way, I think I then read Randomly Ghost Hounds, Puddle's work that came out. And Change New World, and Scotty Fudge, who is another OG fella.
Oh yeah.
He had written a whole bunch of semi-apocalypse stuff, and that's how System Apocalypse started. When I looked at it and went, hey, I want to do that. And I'm in the middle of nowhere, Whitehall. So let's set it up here, see what it's like. And that's where mine started. I literally had no idea that people were actually making money off this. I just was writing it on Royal Road for fun.
Yeah.
And I just turned around and went, well, I guess I have a book here. I guess I should do something with it.
Yes.
I was the same way. When I wrote my first book, I was like, had this idea that one day, like, my grandkids might find like this old shoebox under my bed and like read something and be like, wow, Granddad was into some weird stuff. No idea that what an indie author even was, but yeah, now it's taken over my life. Crazy, right?
I saw a few. I knew a little bit about indie authoring because I've been reading Kristen Carson Rusch's blog about publishing for a very long time, because I'm a bit of a geek for business stuff, and it was fascinating. So I knew about indie authoring. I just didn't realize it was. But then you look at all the numbers on it, and you do a quick research, and people are like, "Oh, you make $500 and a year, maybe." And I'm like, "Okay, well, whatever. It's $500. It's money, maybe."
Yeah.
So I'll throw it up and we'll go from there. And that's basically it. And I think somehow or another, one of my books got mentioned in Ailerons or Blazers group. And that's how I got in there and started talking to people, because that was the only way I found out about it.
Yeah.
Let's jump up to Dakota.
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, I mean, I read like you were saying, like the terrible Russian translations and stuff like that. But as I kind of mentioned in my previous panel here, is I didn't particularly. So I started with Dungeon Core, right? So Cultivation Dungeon Core, and it was not anywhere near kind of what I had ever read, and it was just like, hey, it's like, oh, these guys are doing game like stuff over here. I at the time I was really into like D&D, and so I was like, hey, like if they're doing like video game stuff, I can do a lot more in terms of like D&D stuff, and just like run my characters through the dungeons that I was planning. And then I'd always kind of seen myself as the monsters, as the dungeon, as because I was the person making the story. And so it just worked out super well that people recognize that that's like a valid skill set, because otherwise I'd be still just writing code these days. But it's something that worked out really well for me, and now I work as hard as I can to make it a reality for other people that also want to do this. So
just real quick, because Dakota also sort of pioneered something interesting, like, because I remember reading through a lot of LitRPG, and then I also read Divine Dungeon, and it was completely different. Like, there was so little. There's a lot more Dungeon Core out there, and it's still kind of underrepresented in the marketplace, but there was like nothing. And so I remember reading it and thinking, oh my God, this is amazingly inventive and just wildly unique. I loved how you had incorporated sort of cultivation elements into your system. I thought that was so cool. And that was a big part of my, like, Rogue Dungeon is, anyone who's read it, it's very wildly different. It's isekai, it's there's all kinds of stuff. But Divine Dungeon was my inspiration for wanting to write Dungeon Core, was trying to figure out what would my spin beyond that. But
Mhm.
that was really the series. I remember just tearing through it. I think there are only 3 or 4 books out when I first stumbled upon it, but I tore through it and was just enthralled with it. I loved it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that
Yeah.
it was such a fun read, Divine Dungeon, because it was so different too at that time, and it just made me think of a dungeon keeper, with that giant hand bitch slapping the little imps.
Yeah.
Hey, yep. It was an Empire for me. It was what I liked to play back then. You like build up your dungeon around you, fight the heroes coming through, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
DJ.
For me, just much like Alaron and some of the other guys, the only things that were really out there when I was introduced from a friend who handed me a book, and it was one of the Russians. I want to say it was Alter World, perhaps.
Yeah.
Handed me a book and said, "Hey, you really need to read this." And I went, "Okay, I'll go ahead and read this," because he's a good friend and he'd given me some good books in the past. And it was different because it was, being stuck basically in a video game setting, and it combined two things that I always loved: writing, which I always used to, write things on the side that will never see the light of day. And if anybody ever publishes them, Mom, I will hunt you down and kill you. And video games, which I absolutely adored. And it also gave me the chance to expand on something else I used to do, which is run D&D games, being a DM a long time. But all of the books that I could find right at the start of the genre were the lone male protagonist, the one man who would be transferred or went and joined the game, and he was on his own and having to create his own way. And it was more than a couple years after my guild in WoW had finally set down and broke apart due to life, kids, and jobs and everything else. And I went, well, what is that like? If being able to upload yourself into a video game or in an immersive VR system in 40 years from now, when me and my friends are 70 and 80, and we all got mental health and physical health issues, wouldn't it be fun to get one last raid boss in? Wouldn't that be something we'd all like to do in 30, 40 years when our bodies are failing? Have perfectly healthy in-game bodies and go on a raid? And that was Last Horizons. It's basically the old folks who are able to have perfectly healthy 30-year-old bodies in the game, looking to get that one last adventure before life takes them out. And then from there, by the time I wrote that in 2015 and then finally stopped futzing around with it and quote unquote editing for a year and then finally published it, is when the genre was really starting to roll. Alaron was coming out, Divine Dungeon, all these other stories were starting to roll into this genre of lit RPG that was bursting onto the scene. And it was humbling that people actually wanted to read something I had written, because I really, really didn't think people would want to read what I had wrote. And then I found that there are a lot of other people like me who were very interested in this, not just for reading it, but writing it, and writers who also wanted to read what other people were writing. And I do have to thank Alaron for starting the Facebook page of the Lit RPG, because that was like the first big gathering of people where we could come together and talk about this idea of this genre that was really starting to gather momentum at that point.
Yeah, definitely. And as Xander said, Dominion of Blades. Last Horizon was so well written. It's still one of my favorite lit RPG stories because it was so. It had a very clear arc. It was very emotionally driven as well, and so it was doing things that the Russian ones weren't, and a lot of the others weren't doing. I think that was really one of the nicest parts about the early stuff is a lot of things were like, oh, hey, this guy's doing something different, right? And it was just like, oh, wow, let's see, what they're doing.
Yeah, that
was the most exciting part. Everyone coming out and paving these sort of new paths that we're like, oh, I didn't think about that before. Oh, I didn't think about that before. And then you can totally see the hundreds of offshoots that came out from all of this Wild West sort of ideas from the very beginning, which again are all very, very different from the Russian stuff because it doesn't matter what the first two books are like. You're getting the nationalism by the third one, and it's just so heavily colored in that and sort of the irreverent way that we were doing it. Yeah, it's awesome. I think it's why it's sort of looks like this amazing world tree now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go on to another question, but I will say Last Horizon was one of the few ones I think that actually made me cry, got me emotional. It was actually very touching. It was quite moving and almost unexpected compared to like the escapist fantasy that I thought I was stepping into, to then turn around and get trapped.
Making people cry is what I do, sir.
Shinhofen does of all of the things that Shinhofen does well, and he does a lot of things well. But his because he does really good character-driven stories. I feel like my characters are okay. I always tend to rely really heavily on plot, pacing. But man, Shinhofen really knows how to do well-drawn characters that suck you in, really get you right in the feels.
Right.
So we had an awesome question come out through the comments that it kind of touches on some of the stuff that we'd all talked about previously, but I thought it was really good, so I'll go ahead and bring that up. It's from Brian Norden, and it was to use the analogy that we're all on the ship together. If each of you were captains of that ship, where would you steer the genre in the coming years? And then he gave a couple of examples like categories on Amazon and actual guilds, something else. But we'll go from there. And let's start with Dakota this time.
Yeah, man. So, like, it's just one of those things. Like, I would steer us into more of what we're doing, and what we're doing is kind of everything. You know what I mean? Like, I like the fact that we can be any genre. Like, we are the cranberry juice of genres. You know what I mean? Like, where you're like, oh, you like romance? Well, how about lit RPG romance? Oh, you like horror? How about lit RPG horror? I really like that we can do that, just like be added to anything, and it's still awesome and delicious, right? And so, I just would like whatever we can do to help maximize that capability of getting these new authors the platform that they need to find that success. I think that's what I would do, and that's really what I am working to do, right? So that's my shit.
DJ?
You're all fucked if I'm the person at the helm of a ship. I just want you all to know that now.
It's a speedboat.
Get on the lifeboats. Get on the lifeboats and scramble. Do yourself a favor. The captain has been drinking. You should leave.
Yeah, but the people on board are sexy. Right?
It's just the beard, sir. It fools everyone. I funnily enough, unlike like everyone else on this panel, I mean, small press. Arguably the most well-known lit RPG author, the leader of Canadian lit RPG in some cases, depending on who you talk to. And yeah, Ty, you can raise your eyebrow all you want. I'm calling you out and singling you on this. And then there's me, off in the corner by myself. I shouldn't be captaining anything. I would like to see us continue, like Dakota said, though, continue to bring lit RPG, the idea of this genre, and just keep pushing it forward into more and more mainstream, where more and more people are reading it, more and more people are writing it. So it gets the recognition that arguably it very well could be the next, giant umbrella sci-fi category that people can look at and go, oh yeah, I read lit RPG. Oh, which type of lit RPGs? Because we all know, just like sci-fi, there are many umbrellas under that very broad title. So I would like to see that. I would like to see us just continue to expand and grow until basically the world has to turn and look and finally go, oh, that's something we should look at.
And I really just sorry to turn real quick, but I agree. I think we just found the lit RPG juice. It's cranberry.
Oh my! Is that the juice? Is that
it must be cranberry?
Because Dakota? Like it's appropriate, but it's gross. So that sounds like the right juice. I don't know.
But isn't it healthy as well, Colin?
Oh, so that's definitely not the right juice.
So the secret of lit RPG juice is we need to add a whole bunch of sugar, right? Is that where we're going with this? Before
the only thing that'll make it palatable.
Whole bunch of shiny beard. I said, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Aileron, let's jump to you.
Honestly, when I fell in love with it, which caused me to start writing and caused me to make the group, I really just wanted us to get here. I wanted it to get big enough, too big to just fail or implode. And like every person on this panel, like including you, Jay, has like spent, I can't even know like how many hours behind the scenes helping people, talking to new authors, growing the brand, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so like the boulders sort of picked up momentum, right? So yeah, I would love to see like, some Divine Dungeon and be like, dude, less fucking puns when Dakota gets his own like anime and stuff like that. I would love to see, Tao just sort of talking about like, well, does he have to be Canadian? It's like, yes, he's got to be Canadian. Like, I'd love to hear like the complaints once we like hit Hollywood and did whatever like that. I think that'd be super duper fun. But I kind of just like the way that it's evolving still, right? Like more people are finding out about it. More people like we're having random conversations where they're doing whatever, and they're finding like they're finding James or they're finding Dow or they're finding Dakota or they're finding Dan, they're finding me or they're finding someone else, and then sooner or later they find the rest of us, which is really really cool. And that this kind of like supportive community like did not happen by mistake. Like we have all met some people that were taking it a different direction. We have all like worked again without any thanks to just sort of like boost the genre as a whole, and so that's awesome. I think the growth is inevitable. I think we all saw it maybe 5 or 7 years ago, but we're sort of seeing it manifest now, which is, I don't know, it's kind of humbling.
Yeah.
All right, Tao, how about you?
I'm going to just do a quick shout out to point out that Matt Dinnerman has actually signed with a Hollywood agency. I think is a Hollywood agency, WME, pretty much for Dungeon Crawler Carl. So I think we're getting pretty close to that.
Yeah.
I've heard rumors that He Who Fights Monsters is on the same road to doing that. Or did he sign? I'm not sure anymore. And someone feel free to correct me on that. But
so according to the article that I read, I didn't hear this from him directly, right? But according to the article that I read, it was he signed with a agency that would be adapting his book into a screenplay that would then be attempted to be shopped around. So that I believe is where that one is at. So basically, they're taking steps to put it into like a real hardcore option.
Yeah. So things are moving for sure for some of the most popular works in there. To answer the question though, if I would love to see more female representation and more female readers in our genre. I think we've gotten a lot. We skew heavily towards male readers by far. It's a huge market for women readers in general, and I think that's where I would love to see more minorities in general, not just women, but let's take things as we can. And if I had any say in it, I've only a small say. That'd be where I'd be looking for us to be progressing.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, when I first started writing, I always thought that video games were more dude dominated, and I couldn't have been more wrong. 40% of online gamers are women, so it's definitely the kind of genre that would appeal to like our female readers and
you just have to figure out how.
Female authors. Yeah.
I think that for me, in some ways we all are sort of ship captains, and I think it's always kind of been that way, right? I mean, there's all of the people on this panel have contributed in massive ways, but there's a lot of people. I think of Ramon Mejia, I think of Matt Dinnerman, I also think of Jeff Hayes, who really did a lot to push audiobooks forward in this space. I think there's been a lot of contributors that have all been working behind the scenes, and I think a lot of readers may not realize like how close knit this community of authors really is. I love seeing all of these people. We travel around the world, we go to conferences, we see these people, we talk shop, and we'll share, sort of like, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what's working, this is not what's not working. And I think that that's helped push the genre to where it is. I think that in a lot of ways, the massive growth that we've seen is partly because it's a popular genre that people enjoy reading, but I also think it's because of the efforts of extraordinary people who have a vision for this thing and realize exactly how amazing it is, and have really pushed the boundaries to popularize it and help it to go sort of more mainstream. Things that I'm looking forward to and sort of where I would steer. I think additional sort of stratification in terms of genre diversity. I love the fact that we're developing as it's developing. We see more and more sort of subgenres emerging inside of LitRPG. I think that that's really, really cool. I also think, and this is something that all of us have contributed to, but the increased quality of the products that we're putting out. Back in the very early days of LitRPG, it really was the Wild West, and there were a lot of books that were put out that were not well edited or not well written. And now I think that we see that that's not really the case anymore. A lot of these books, you know, people still complain sometimes about the quality, but being in this sort of from the beginning, I have seen the quality of storytelling, the quality of editing, the quality of cover art. It is shot through the roof. The quality of audiobook production. The authors in this space now are creating products that are just as good as anything that I see coming out of the traditional big four publishing houses. And I think that's really a sort of a mark in our favor that we as a community have been able to come together and raise the standards. And I think that that's only going to draw more people in.
I honestly feel like we've all touched on it as well, but the thing that really sort of springboarded our success and that I really want to see outcap in the future is that we are all pretty accessible, I think, as authors to our fans. Like, unlike almost every other genre where there's this sort of like impenetrable barrier, every one of us is like, I mean, definitely all the people on here, like, you know, people reach out and you say like, hey, and I'm sure you guys have heard 1,000 times, wow, no author has ever responded, that kind of thing. And so like just being able to like have that actual connection and have our sort of like core demographic, they're like making friends. Like some people are even like literally moving to different parts of the country to be closer because they found each other like through LitRPG. Like I think that connection, like as somebody else said, like I really do think that we've sort of steered what the definition of a successful indie author means by just having that connection with our fans. And
yeah,
I hope that never goes away, no matter how big it gets. So
I'll 100% agree with Kong. The fact that we are accessible, you can find us and talk to us on multiple platforms, and you know, I've replied, I think, to every single person who's messaged me, except for the one guy I had to block because it was unkind to start with such words. And if you're going to do that, you're not wanting a discussion; you're just wanting to attack. But the fans, I mean, probably the biggest reasons we have things like this con going on, they're the ones that support us. But I also wanted to touch James' things where he's talking about the people behind the scenes that help support everything. Then I'm just going to look over at the gentleman who's supposed to be moderating it, James motherfucking Taylor over
Everybody
here,
point at him.
who is well known throughout the community, who has supported many, many people. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man. And shout out to like all the mods that have just spent literally hundreds of hours throughout the years just to like keep out the trolls, keep things going, keep it like cool, like really are like the gatekeepers for this sort of kind culture that we're lucky enough to sort of foster in this crazy, crazy world. So,
I think a big part of it is that the vast majority of authors that are successful in the game lit RPG space are people who are fans. Like all of us started out as fans. We fell into this because we found a genre that we loved, or we started writing something that we loved. And I think that that's part of the reason why the community is so strong and why we are so accessible to readers is because we're readers. I'm on Royal Road all the time looking for new fictions and new things that are interesting that I've never seen before because I fell into this because I loved the genre. And I think it's that mutual love for this thing that we're all doing that makes it such a great, healthy, vibrant community that it is.
Mm-hmm.
So let's actually switch over to a kind of interesting topic that's kind of related to the growing all the pieces. There's quite a few people in here that I'm pretty sure that I've seen their artwork or artwork based upon their books tattooed on people's bodies. So how do you guys feel about having these Uber fans who go out there and get tattoos of your work and permanently put a part of what you've shared with the universe on them and make it a part of their own identity?
Let me say first that Jay's face is tattooed on several people's bodies, and they're not even really sure. They don't even know. but he is immortalized in flesh.
A couple of them, man. I'm the other half of those two gnomes that everyone keeps getting tattooed.
Jay is a dark patron, and people are just getting tattoos of him and giving him power, and they don't even realize.
Just his beard just grows like 1 inch every time that happens. It's amazing.
So I mean, Aileron, you've had that a lot. So why don't you, like, since you already started a little bit, like, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, the very first time it happened, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I think I looked out my window to make sure that I wasn't in some sort of misery kind of situation where I was like, it's also like weird. I don't know. It's like, it's awesome, but it's weird. And I was like, this is amazing. I immediately put out like, hey, anyone that gets a tattoo gets lifetime books for free. And then like 10 people did it. And I was like, whoa. Let's back this up, guys. You get like a couple. And then it just had to turn into one because, it's like more than 40 people have gotten tattoos now, which is amazing and awesome and humbling. And still, I mean, again, it's just one of those ripples that, like, I never anticipated. I never anticipated anyone to ever read my book. And now this has happened. And I mean, along this vein, I'm sure you guys have gotten the same too, like the lives that you touch. I mean, I've had people write to me about how they were going to commit suicide and they didn't because they found the books, or because they found the books and then found friends in the genre and they were lonely, or people that had been disenfranchised from their family or hadn't been able to connect with their kids, or, they were going through a depression. And I mean, like, I don't know. It never occurred to, I mean, like, even being a fan, like, James said, it never occurred to me that I can be part of this, like, sort of tapestry and have these ripples sort of come out from there. So yeah, it's awesome. It's weird, awesome and weird. That's it, basically.
How about you, Tao?
I've not had anyone tattoo anything on their body for my work.
Check this out, no?
Is that free real estate we're seeing there, Aileron?
Just a little tramp stamp.
So I'm kind of grateful. So I'm okay with that. I don't have any on myself. I don't do tattoos, mostly because I'm too squirrel brained to want any specific thing forever. I think it'd be really cool. It'd be, artwork and stuff like that. All of that is, to me, is just an expression of the love that they have for the series, which, once you put it out there, it does what it does. And it's humbling when you see stuff like that. And when you see, some of the things that Aileron has talked about, when people talk to you as an author, about how you've touched their lives, and, when you've written something that works for them in ways that you didn't expect it to. Though it's always incredibly humbling.
So as someone who does love tattoos, I have a lot of tattoos. We're here on this earth for a short period of time. I love art. I want to decorate myself and make myself look as pretty as I can. Nature didn't give me a lot to work with, so I try to add to it. But it is always very humbling when your artwork or your art has touched someone to that level. I think back, it's to COVID, and we were talking about this on the mental health panel. I remember going through sort of the COVID years, and we're still kind of in them. And there were periods of time where it was really hard for me to write because I felt like, why am I doing this? It feels like the world, there's so many things wrong with the world. Why am I wasting my time telling stories? It feels so hopeless and futile. And then I realized that I was consuming TV shows and books. And that was what I was using to get through this really stressful and really difficult period in my life. And I realized that that's what my books do for other people too. That the art that I create, even though sometimes it feels dumb and stupid and futile, it's an escape. And to know that it touched someone so much that they want to have that as a piece of them forever is deeply humbling. And also, I think, an amazing expression of how powerful art is. Art is the thing that helps ground us through really difficult times. And the messages that we put into our books are the things that help people keep going, even when sometimes they don't want to. So I feel really blessed to be able to do that for somebody else, even if it's only one person. To know that I contributed positively in their life is just amazing experience and feeling.
I'll jump up to Dakota because I have a pretty good idea. Something Daniel's going to bring up in a minute.
I mean, like they said, man, you know, it's, I definitely appreciate it. It's one of those things where, I mean, having a patron used to weird me out, right? Like, but like these guys are saying, like if you're gonna do something like that and really show how much you love it, do my name, because I have a new logo that's the Dakota Kraut logo, and so like I have the Mountain Dale Press one, but I also have the Dakota Kraut one. If you haven't seen it, it's this one here on the top of the books, right? So the thing that's special about it is the D is actually a smiley face. You know,
That's my line.
so yeah, I think it was a lot of fun. But yeah, you know, if you're gonna do that, do that. But otherwise, the Mountain Dew Press one is also really, really cool. So got that. But no, man, like they're saying, it's a huge compliment, and it's one of those things that you just don't ever know how to like react to it. Like just like, you know, coming out of the Army, when someone says, "Hey, man, thank you so much for your service. It means so much to me." What do you say to that, James?
It's always awkward. I just say thank you at this point.
Exactly. Just say thank you. You're like, "Hey, man, I understand. I know where you're coming from. Like, I get it. It's what I was doing it a lot for me, a lot for the people around me, and that it touched you. You know, obviously, it's a big deal. But all you can say is thank you, because anything else is just not enough. You know.
Yeah.
I will put one caveat on this. Please, nobody get a face tattoo. Like I always think of the lady who got Drake tattooed across her forehead. Please, even if my books have changed your life, get it on a place that can be easily concealed, because I don't want you ruining your career for all time.
Now, if you do get one, just say like Dal made me do it. That would be like just fire. You know?
Oh,
No Gertz. Yep.
DJ.
Before I touch on tattoos, I have had, like I'm sure the other authors here have, and has been briefly touched about. I've had a few people contact me and tell me how one of my stories or more of my stories have helped them through a rough time. Death of a loved one, their life just falling up around them, and it helping keep them going long enough to get back onto their feet. And those are always very humbling. And like Dakota said, and there's not a whole lot I can say to that. Thank you for reading my books, and I'm glad that I was able to help get you over that spot of your life. But it's always very humbling when somebody does that, because I mean, I just basically roll my face back and forth across a keyboard and let the words spill out of my ears. So the fact that my nonsensical ramblings help somebody through a tough spot in their life is something I still have a hard time dealing with myself. As for tattoos, sometimes fans don't get them willingly. You have to drag them off to a tattoo artist, strap them to the chair, and pay for the tattoo to be done. However, at that point, it is promotional. And if I can get Jay to raise an arm for me.
Show it, Jay.
Oh,
you got to rotate it, buddy.
That's safe.
It's not showing. Other side.
I'm getting
there. You go. The Aether's Shield from Aether's Revival is something I did pay to print onto his body, because I wanted him to know for all time that I have used somebody he knows in that series, and I just want to remind him of that forever. But the fact that I did get Jay that tattoo then did start me on the process of putting my own books onto myself, because I am still very proud of everything I've written. So I am slowly putting the relevant art that makes sense for each of those series onto myself. So this way, when I do get dementia later in life, I'll at least be able to maybe have a reminder that might help jar a brain cell into reminding me of something.
Too dark, Shinhofen.
Life is dark, sir. Anybody who tells you life isn't dark is lying.
Not dark enough. After the dementia, do we get to skin you in case we lose the books?
Oh my God.
That's fine. Go ahead. I don't mind. At that point, I really won't care.
Hold on. That's going to be a Kickstarter.
Okay, that's the line. Okay, whatever.
That's going to be a Kickstarter. It's going to be one last special edition.
I put Jay in charge of that exact thing. Jay's in
if
charge
we're
of that.
gonna
I've
do a
already told him.
Kickstarter,
So.
why wait? You know.
Real quick, I want to say, please, for the love of God, nobody take up Matt Dinneman on his offer. Also, Matt, since I think you're going to be in Vegas, dude, if you want to go to a tattoo parlor and get some matching tattoos, I'm not going to say no. So just, we can
Depends
talk
on the
about
tattoo.
Hey, Dinneman and I were supposed to do that in Atlanta this year, but we just never got to it. I've made that offer to quite a few.
So are
of
we
you guys
saying
wanna
that like
go pay
whoever
for the
donates the
tattoo? I'll
most
go
money
do it.
gets to decide what the tattoos are? That's what we're saying now?
I am not agreeing to that.
There's I don't know.
I'll see you
There's
at the-
now
at
bidding
Held-
for.
I'm
Oh
winning this.
God.
I did get into
Oh,
a bidding
man.
war over Jay's body at Dragon Con over being able
Yeah.
to slap tattoos in different places. So I mean, I think Jay's body's worth it.
I mean, if we're selling real estate, I'll pay double for the tramp stamp area. That's when you know you made it.
That was a highly sought after position, and they were arguing over what goes there. And they were starting their bidding at like 25, 30K. Like this, they were
It was
making
getting
me think about
pricey.
It was getting. I would say that's a bit pricey.
You know, at that point, I'm not going to argue. Like, let's go.
Hey man, everybody's got to eat.
True.
All right, so let's jump over to another question. We've had a couple come through, but
That took a wild left turn.
I thought that one would be.
That's what she said.
Hey.
Hey.
So we've covered quite a few of them, but there was one that was specific. Like, if your work was turned into a movie show or a TV show, what would you hate to see them remove from your work?
The puns. And I know they would. They would do it.
They would.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be like, oh, it only works when you write it. And I'm like, no.
In that case, that's like half of your book gone, isn't it?
Well, I know, right?
Yeah.
So then they would just turn into like a generic action adventure, but slightly more dungeon themed.
If we got rid of the puns, it would just be a pamphlet. I don't think they would have a real book off of.
It's just a trifold.
That's right.
I mean, with me, like the only thing that's really, really matters is make sure that they have like a black main character. I mean, like that was talking about, like the diversity, like representation, like really matters to me. Like I've had like, you know, younger like men and women of color like reach out and say like I haven't been able to find someone, especially in the genre that I love, that looks like me. So I mean, like that would sort of just be like the number one thing. And then I guess the other thing is I just wouldn't ever. I'd rather have no one ever hear about it again than get the MTV treatment like they did with, you know, Shannara and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's not worth it to me. So,
can we have something other than just monogamy? I mean, for those who don't know, I write harem. Can we have something other than just monogamy? Just if they took that out of my books, you pretty much got my books as like taking puns out of Dakota's. So.
Wheel of Time did it, man. Let's see if the show keeps it. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll
but
see.
Wheel of Time, Robert Jordan had it in there.
Yeah.
So for me, I would say it's really hard, right? Because I know that TV and movies are both a very different medium than books are. And when you're dealing with TV or you're dealing with movies, those are also artists, right? They also, those producers, those directors, they also have their own vision. They also have their own art that they want to incorporate. So, you know, a lot of people are like, oh no, I want a perfect adaptation. I don't. I think I want something that the people who are working on it are also passionate about, that they treat the source material well, but that also they bring their own passion, their own vision to the work, because I think that that's the beauty of collaboration, right? When you're collaborating with people that are passionate and good at what they do, they can breathe life into the art and make it something better, or at least something different than it was before, but also new and amazing in its own way. And worst case scenario, they butcher it and everyone complains and goes and buys your books. So I feel like it's a no-lose situation, really.
For me, same as Aileron, I would really not want them to not have a Chinese main character, or at least someone who's mixed. I did mention, I think, in the first book that after his genes get mixed up, you know, he looks like Keanu Reeves, because, you know, we all have our internal main casting, you know.
Yeah.
But the
Alan
other
Tudyk,
thing that I would
what I want.
really not want them to change in System Apocalypse specifically is the ending. Um, there's a very specific storyline in there, and if they change that ending, it would screw up everything else. I understand adaptations, and I understand that things have to shift and move, and I don't expect them to keep everything, but that's the heart of the storyline. And if they change that, then great, I'll take them. I'll take the paycheck, but I'm not sure it will be the same story anymore.
Dakota?
Oh, I'm just saying, like, I would definitely want my main. I don't care which book it is that they start with, but I want the main character to be Alan Tudyk.
Oh God, it's a treasure.
Oh man, just so good. I don't know if you know, he was the chicken in Moana.
Yeah. Juilliard actor plays chicken in Moana. I mean, it's the beauty.
Amazing.
Whatever
Amazing.
pays the bills.
It really showed the range for me. That's what really did. Like everything else, I've always loved Alan Tudyk. Like, Death at a Funeral, like all of his stuff, like even his like esoteric roles are just hilarious to me. So I don't care what else goes on, but that's the character I want as the main character. Don't care which book it is.
I
Even
fell in
if
love
he's
with
spiritualist, we'll
Shout
just
out
have
to
to believe
Resident
him.
Alien. Is amazing. Resident Alien has just been
Oh, yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love
I
it.
haven't seen it yet, but it looks
Oh,
awesome.
it's so great. It really is. Yeah.
I fell in love with him even before I watched Firefly. One of my favorite movies of all time is Knight's Tale,
Oh, gosh.
and
Yes.
man, I love him so much in that. He's so great.
Yeah.
Yep. Man.
All right, we'll throw another question on here. That was actually from James before the panel started. What are some of the changes you have seen within the genre over the past couple of years, and like, what do you think the biggest and craziest one has been? And let's start with James, since it's his question. He's had the most time to formulate an answer.
Fair enough.
Oh, that's where you're wrong. I haven't thought about that question one time since I typed it out. No, but so I mentioned it earlier. I think the quality of the books and the stories that are coming out is so much more. I also think the just expansiveness of different systems and different ideas has been just wild to see. I mean, early on, a lot of it was VR based, which makes sense, right? Because the sort of easiest way to explain LitRPG is in a VR setting. But I love all of the isekai, the transported to another world, the post-apocalyptic LitRPG. I love the diversity of new stories and systems that have sort of blossomed all over the place. Because as a reader, it keeps me constantly interested. I can find something that I love. I know it's LitRPG or game lit or even progression fantasy, but I'll see a new setting that I've never seen before. There's a lot of sort of Stardew Valley esque, farm cultivators and stuff coming out right now, and that's awesome. I've been really enjoying those. But I also still enjoy all of the VR stuff, the isekai stuff, and I just think that diversity has been one of the greatest things. The other thing, in terms of changes, is just the recognition broadly of what LitRPG is. Like when we started, all of us, it was this little niche thing that no one knew. I remember at our first Dragon Con, Ramon Mejia was there, and he had a pamphlet. And it said, "Do you want to know about LitRPG?" He was like a missionary going around trying to tell people about the genre. And now we do Dragon Con, and I would say 70% of the people that come to our booth already know what LitRPG is and have already read at least one LitRPG title or more out of the collective work. So just like the how much it's spread like wildfire is just incredible to see.
Yeah, we did the post-apocalyptic panel, and we filled that room, and they were like, "We should have given you the big room over there because they have like 12 people," and so they were talking about wanting us back for sure. So it was amazing.
Yeah, the recognition definitely as well. I mean, like, it's grown way more bigger than I ever thought it was going to. But when LitRPG was first coming out, and we were making some waves, and that was back when Amazon had like the top 100 authors, top 100 sci-fi fantasy authors. Surprisingly, our like little genre, which was like 0.001% of like the authors out there, were occupying between like 5 and 10 of the spots in the top 100 like every day. Like, just was very consistent. But even then, I remember I talked to like several imprints when I first came out, because again, I didn't really know what indie was, and I still just sort of thought, well, if I'm indie, I'm not like a real author. I have to be traditional to be a real author. And I'm talking to these imprints, and they're like, yeah, no, we heard about your little thing, but there's, just so you know, like we've talked about it. You guys are a waste of time. Have fun for right now. You'll be forgotten in a month. And it was funny for all of us, like meeting basically at DragonCon, which kind of became our like sort of gathering spot once a year. And we were like, hey, so now like, a year later, it's like, oh yeah, I kind of got an offer for traditional, but I'm started looking here. And then by like the fourth year, it's like, yeah, no, we're consistently getting these offers from like the big publishers, but it's like they have no idea the numbers that we're working with or whatever. I mean, it's like, I don't know, they're like giving you like the equivalent of like a 1950s Motown contract for, all of Prince's work kind of thing. So just sort of us having like, we waded through that, I think early on without, a lot of pain, but like with no recognition. And now it's like, again, the momentum is so big that the genre is going to be good, independent of all of us, even though we're still like, doing our thing, which is amazing. So like it has a life of its own. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. Like it was nurtured so much by everyone here and many other people, and now it grows. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's like self-sustaining. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Dakota?
I mean, if you want to talk about the biggest changes I've seen, is these guys. Other way. These two here, and Aton and Portal and all of these small, well, they used to be small publishing companies that just started out with basically them and their wives, who are amazing people, by the way. No, they are amazing, and probably do more of the work than they do.
You're not wrong. I do write the book. She just helps me sell them.
Exactly. Anyway, but
you'd be dead in a ditch, James.
The creation of
probably under a bridge. Let's be honest.
He might still be dead under a bridge if she sees this panel.
Well done, Tao. You got James killed.
Getting rid of the competition, one step at a time.
One down.
But no, I mean, these guys have formed full companies that are, have made, full-time authors of so many people, have started people on the way to, becoming authors or becoming successful, and they've pushed it out on a formal basis that, a lot of us just aren't willing to take a step onto, because it's a lot of damn work. So, yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest change I've seen in the last 7 years.
Dakota?
So are we talking now because we kind of had a shift there. So what question do you want to answer now, Jay?
That's a good one. Now you're putting me on the spot. Let's go back to what was the biggest changes you saw within the genre in the last few years?
Biggest changes. I would just say the way that we had this massive cascade of authors, right? Like thousands of authors. Like it. I mean, I remember when it was like on one hand. I remember first time I met James, there was like 15 total authors in the genre, and we could all meet up in one little place and hang out and chat.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, all of them vanished except for like pretty much the guys that are here, right? And like a few others. And then all of a sudden, there was just this weird critical mass where everyone is like, hey, we love this, but there's not nearly enough authors. All of us can do this.
Yeah.
And we were all, and then just everyone did. And so that's one of those really cool things though, because I still read as much as I can in the genre. So it's really cool because basically it's a bunch of authors writing to other authors at this point, because so many of the fans just turned into authors. Right. So I think it was just a really cool cascade. And I think that was probably one of the biggest changes I saw, was just it opening it up to become this massive, much more mainstream thing. And I really, really hope that it continues in that same vein.
It's like you just said it was like 50. You remember when I was like 15, right at the very beginning. Don't you employ more than that just currently through
Yeah.
Mountaindale?
Sure
I'm
do.
just, I mean, that right there. That kind of shows you how much things have exploded since then.
Yep.
But as Alaron pointed out, way back at the start of this, we've lost some really good authors along the way. It's just they stopped writing or through other things that are sad to contemplate, which is the cessation of life. Because let's bring it dark again, because I'm here. And the massive thing that I'm just going to repeat what everyone else has already said, because when you're the fifth person on the panel answering a question, that's what you do. The genre has grown so much that you can see the change of where we're able to just keep branching out, and all the fans who have gotten inspiration from Dakota or Alaron or Tau, who've then also written and started to branch out in a different way. So the top of this tree is just going to continue to keep growing out. And I think the biggest change is going from, if you were here right at the very start and you were reading things like The Land when it was first published, and you're still around and reading now, the sheer difference in trying to find a book back in the day and having to go through the Facebook group, which had maybe 50 to 100 people on it, and get a recommendation of one of the books you hadn't read yet, because there were so few of them, to now when if you ask for recommendations, you need an umbrella at the very least, but you probably want a shovel and a wheelbarrow as well to get all those recommendations so you can actually take them off Amazon and look at them. So
it's like the opening Star Wars crawl. If you ask for a book recommendation now, it's just like it doesn't stop.
Oh, that's so much now. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Awesome, the opportunities and just the amazing art that's being put out into the world for people to enjoy. It's great.
So, we are past our time limit now for anyone who does have to drop for any reason. But there was some other questions if you guys are willing to keep going.
Yeah, good.
So, very, very similar to what DJ just said, there was a question earlier of what is one singular book you would advise to someone to read for a first lit RPG?
Can we put a caveat that it can't be your own? Because
I was just going to say, I'm going to let you put your own in there, but we're all going to judge you harshly.
Okay, all right, fair.
Okay, so
I don't care. Judge me. Judge away. You ready? Actually, I would actually throw Dakota's out there. Divine Dungeon is a cornerstone, actually, now in the lit RPG genre. I could pimp the gentleman beneath me, but if I have to pick one right this second, Divine Dungeon is one I've recommended to personal friends. Way back when it first came out, very first book that came out, where hey, I just finished this. Read this book. So I can honestly say that.
Thanks, buddy.
And now go read all my stuff.
I was gonna say, let's go to Dakota. What about you?
Honestly, man, just pick something up in the genre. That's one of the great things about this genre, right? Is you're gonna get to all of us eventually. If you like what you see in one book, you're gonna get to the rest of us, which is one of the cool things. If I had to say something more recent, I'm trying to think of something that's not Mountaindale. I don't know. I saw Rage King recently. That looked pretty cool. I know the author is super cool dude, and
that's only if you like really spicy non-monogamous relationships. I think will you enjoy Rage King?
Right.
What was the name of the book then? Because I need to go find this now.
Rage King. Aaron Crash it, crush it, love it. Aaron's the best. I love Aaron so much.
We all love Aaron. But no, it's hard to say for sure. I mean, honestly, anyone on this panel, I would recommend their stuff, right? Even some of even with Shinhofen, I like Shinhofen so much as a person that we've done some of his audio, right? And his writing is good enough that I had no concerns about doing that, right? And everyone else, it's just all great. It is wonderful, and that is something that I can say fully confidently with this whole genre, which is cool.
Let's go down to James so he can pimp Rage King a little more.
There you go.
Yeah, obviously the best. No, Rage King's great. Aaron Crash is great if you like spicy harem stuff. In terms of what your first book should, it's so hard because tastes vary so wildly. Again, I agree with Dakota. I think any person on this panel, if you go read the first book in like any of their series, is going to be a good introduction. A couple of notable examples that are not on this panel that I would also recommend just broadly because I think that they're great. Luke Chemilenko, I think his stuff is awesome.
His company Wraithmark is putting out really cool stuff recently.
Wraithmark is putting out some really great stuff. I would also recommend. I was talking to Matt Dinneman the other day on Twitter. I finally got around to reading Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I just absolutely enjoyed the absolute heck out of it. It was so funny, so good, so well written. I can't say enough good things about it. And then I'll also go ahead and just pimp Xander Boyce, who does some really great sort of post-apocalyptic lit RPG. He's a great writer. The fact that he's a coastie, I won't hold it against him, but he's great. I love him, and I think he's got some really awesome stuff out there.
Hal, what about you?
I'm gonna go and mention someone else that we forgot, because and whose work I really have suggested a lot. Andrew Siepo. Siepo. I hope I got that his last name right. Treadbear, which is basically has a teddy bear golem,
so good, yeah.
Which is perfect. I love the idea of a little teddy bear golem that just keeps getting is so dumb because he's a golem and has no intelligence, and he gets better and better, and it's cute, and then it isn't, but it's still really well done, and it's amazing. Even Opera liked it, so what can I say? No, I would definitely suggest that we've got some other older people who haven't turned up on these panels, and we forgot to mention Michael Chatfield's 10 Rails is amazing. Apollo's Tawn's Codename Freedom System is really good if you like something that is a little more gritty and a little more detailed in terms of stuff. Underworld is just OP, run around blue mage killing things, which really works for people. And that's always the question of what do you want to suggest because of who the person is. So,
and just because of the plethora of choices
we have now. Awesome
and so much of it is good quality stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aleron?
I mean, with me, it's funny, when you think back to the books that you read and sort of where you were in your career and how you felt and how it was when you first read them. I mean, I'm going to sort of parrot what people were saying earlier. Like, Divine Dungeon was sort of just groundbreaking and fun and amazing. Like, even with the puns, they were toned down a little bit. It was awesome. But I mean, everyone on here, everyone on here, has helped to, grow my appreciation for the genre and everything like that. I guess if I'm going to give some shout outs, I would say that I think Reincarnation of the Strongest Sword God is one of the sort of best progressions. It's OP, but the world building is, I don't know, just sort of second to none and insanely detailed. And then in the other direction, I would recommend Way of the Shaman that James mentioned earlier by Vasily Manenko. It's almost like if you want to learn code, if you called LitRPG coding, then this would be the most base language. It's the entire book is about listening to a guy mine rocks, and it's fascinating. And craft. How do you do that? Yeah, I mean, exactly. But it's awesome, right? I mean, there's that kind of stuff. We mentioned Cosmo Yap earlier with the game. He was, I want to say, he was the very first to go sci-fi direction with it, maybe.
At least the first one to really do it well.
Yeah, at least in the first wave, for sure.
Yeah,
there's no question there.
Awesome. And then I feel what is it? I mean, Ultra World. I mean, again, if you go too far down any Russian rabbit hole, there's going to be a lot of nationalism. But that world building was amazing. So I mean, I think any of those would sort of just give you a really great appreciation that you could then sort of grow into it with. But it's almost I almost feel like an old guy now, where it's like, someone's like, "Oh my God, I love the latest James Bond," and it's like, you don't know James Bond unless you see Sean Connery, and you got to go back to all these, just wade through all the sexism. But that guy, he had some moxie. It's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. You have to be a true fan to really find like this like awesome sort of stuff that's out there, and understand just how groundbreaking a lot of it was when it started like 7 years ago. I mean, but like, yeah, 7 years. We're like knocking on a decade now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I have one more series that I really want to recommend, because I think that it's great, and I'm really sad that it didn't do as well as I think that it should have, which is Deathless Dungeoneers by J.D. Astra. Jess has been working with us for a long time. She's written a lot of books. It is easily her best work, and it is one of the most on-genre books that I have read this past year. It's sort of Dungeon Tycoon, and it's just absolutely incredible. And I don't know why it hasn't gotten traction, but it's one of the most sort of like underrated lit RPG game lit style books out there. So if you're looking for something that's awesome, great introduction, but underrated, Deathless Dungeoneers by J.D. Astra. It is just phenomenal read.
I really like what she did with her with her Amazon author profile recently.
Yeah, she's an innovator, man. She's always working. The system for that one is cool. It's like these tattoos that you channel mana through. It's awesome. Great book, great series.
I won't touch too much on that one because I helped her with it a little bit here and there.
I know,
but that
but
was such a good one. You're right.
Awesome.
That was without doubt, that's her best book, period, and it's worth a read. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
but talking about other series that we didn't even mention, I forgot completely. Stonehaven League by Cassie Summers.
Carrie Summers, right?
It's one of the better series. It ties in both the real world along with the VR aspects and makes it work so well. It's amazing. I really enjoy that. Obviously, I could pimp Katie's Hannah Somnia Online, but she's a co-author, so I won't. Other than the fact that
I'll pimp Katie, I don't mind. She might mind that I pimp her, but I'll do it. Somnia Online. If you're looking for a female author who wrote an amazing series, because there are some people who look specifically for that, Somnia Online is a great series. I have read all of them. I have listened to the audiobooks for them, and it's a really solid series.
We could do this all night, man. Like I
could
really
you guys really did hit almost all of them.
Legendary Mechanic.
Not even close.
I'm going to throw one more out there, only because I don't think we've touched on it at all.
All right, give us your one recommendation, Jay.
This is hard because I've worked on a few and I've been involved in so many. I'll say Harmon Cooper's original. Now I can't even remember the name. I'm losing my mind.
Is it Feedback Loop?
Yes.
Oh,
I gave that away, and like he was so kind when LitRPG first started, and there wasn't a lot of us. I reached out to a whole bunch of authors, and I said, "Hey, we have all these people joining the group, trying to figure out what is LitRPG," and I was trying to figure out different ways to help introduce them and get them a better like build up, and I reached out to a bunch of people, and quite a few of them are on the panel today, and I said, "Hey, I want to give away some of your books to random people." Or at least samples, pieces, like the beginning. And most of you guys either already had them up in some places, you gave me links, you did whatever. But it was one of I had a package of 5, and I'm not going to say all 5 because some of them don't write anymore, some of them do, and I don't want to go into it. But Harmon was one of the guys who gave me the book, and I gave away I don't know how many copies of Feedback Loop because I thought it was one of the good ones to start. And it just I don't see it get recognized a lot, and most of the other ones that I would normally recommend and give out, you guys already hit on. So
plus Harmon just like a class act dude. He's so nice. No one ever has anything bad to say about Harmon because he's a great guy. He just like he's fun to be around. He's super positive. He's really encouraging, really creative. Just class act. Love Harmon.
Plus, I didn't have anything to do with him writing Feedback Loop. That was before my time. So I have no skin in the game there.
Do we have
I
anything
know
else?
we're going over, but I wanted to take a second to just really give another shout out to Jay. I wanted to give a shout out to Damien. I wanted to give a shout out, to Evan. I want to give a shout out to like all the mods, all the different people that really just have worked. Jay, yeah, he would use his own money to like promote the genre, to promote authors. He has been there and been like a concierge for like so many people, myself included. Geneva, like who I would be absolutely lost without. I mean, I just think there's so many people that because they love the genre and they're not even directly benefiting from it, like they've built it and we've been able to sort of stand on their shoulders. And I never forget that, man. I appreciate you. You're awesome.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Geneva. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Geneva, thank you so much. I know I can't even imagine how hard it was to wrangle all of these authors. It's like working with authors, and I know as a publisher is like it's like trying to herd tigers with dental floss made out of meat. I mean, it's just miserable. So the fact that you orchestrated all of these panels and got all these people together, incredible job.
Yeah. All right, people like
shout out to
Don
Kristen
Chapman, who's been around forever and was mods on God knows how many forum groups for up until recently. She's put in so much work as well. She doesn't get mentioned, but yeah, Geneva's did amazing, just putting this together, and Kristen, who also, helps her with that.
James, I now want to see you have somebody in your book leading tigers around with meat floss. I'm just saying. You've mentioned it, so I got to see it in one of your books now.
That's really good.
I'm gonna start working it in, man. It's gonna happen.
That's good.
I'll let you know.
I'm pretty sure that's a short story on his Patreon.
Yeah,
all the moderators during this convention have been amazing to work with. If I am correct though, Geneva's basically was the pusher and shaker of trying to get everything done for this.
This is her baby. She did it all.
So we should all give a thank you to the woman who put time, effort, lack of sleep, possibly even blood. I'm pretty sure there was a blood sacrifice or two to bring some of these people in. So thank you very much. I'm not going to thank Jay though. He still owes me money.
Wait, what? You said that was a gift, and I mean, what?
What? No. I'm talking about for the strippers and blow, sir.
God. This channel just got super adult. It's after hours with Shinhofen all along.
Everything with me is after hours, sir.
Isn't that what your dinner in Vegas is supposed to be? Is strippers
what is
and blow?
This beard bump I hear you guys keep doing? I want to know more about that.
That's not me. That's Nick Coons and Jay.
Is it true you guys you guys weave them together periodically? It's like a beat the clock kind of thing? Or?
Is it like a dwarven ritual? Like a marriage pact, maybe?
Not like a dwarven ritual. It is a dwarven ritual.
A lot of people don't know this, but Nick and I are actually one person, and the only way we can separate is to unwind our beards and go in two different places at the same time. We're one entity, and the beard controls us, and we're just mobile golems.
Beard. So
and you just have to weave it together to go and pass memories.
Dakota,
yep, beards and trench coat.
I'm sorry, I completely missed it. What?
Dakota, I only have to say one more thing to you before this panel breaks up. Fuck you for Dwarf Bros, dude. Do you even war, bro? Do you even war?
Hey man, it's not a war crime the first time.
Get it.
I'm glad you liked it.
Oh man. There's just been so much over the years, and you have all worked so hard, and there's so many other people out there who have as well, but you guys all helped lead an entire genre into creating and growing and doing, and it's a privilege from my perspective to have sat here and watched and been a part of from the very beginning almost, and seen the success and the growth and the love. Like, you guys are all so humble, and you're always recommending each other and backing each other up and doing great things, and that's amazing. You don't see that in a lot of other places, especially outside of their own publishing house. You know what I mean? Like, professional authors might recommend another, but very often it's other people within that same publishing company, and it's so cool to see how those lines don't define a lot of the relationships here. and the way you guys all interact and how you do it, and even the authors who aren't even in the panels are here to support people and talk, and they're interacting with people in the chat. It's amazing, and it's a privilege to be a part of, and it's so great to have seen.
Thanks, dude. You're awesome. I mean, yeah, we need to hear that. I really believe that. That's something we need to hear, because it is way too easy to remember or to fall into the trap of thinking like, man, I am exhausted 100% of the time for no reason.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah. So thank you.
The way this genre supports itself is completely different from the way other genres tear each other apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just for that, this genre, outside of everything else, is so vastly different than every other thing I've seen from authors in romance, sci-fi, urban fantasy, where they just attack each other.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I credit like Jay's work for that. I credit Geneva. I credit like the Maz. I mean, like, it's not by accident that like the groups and stuff like didn't turn into just absolute dumpster fires. It's because they're like getting cussed out and like never telling us and just like blocking or doing whatever, trying to keep the peace. Like,
Yeah.
it's not easy. And so, I mean, I appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Same.
Absolutely.
All right. It feels like we're doing a lot of
Round
broken here now.
Can
we wrap? Can we go out on a high note?
I think we're wrapped.
I think so.
Let's do it. Time of death, 10:23. We're going dark.
You called it. Which is perfect, because I have to get up in the morning with my children, and they are hellions, and they do not care that I did not go to bed on time. They're going to be up 6 a.m. Jumping on my skull.
I just want to point out that was it Franny Bickmore just wrote a comment, gonna miss you guys. So like, if this is where we start like getting assassinated one at a time, it was her. She's the one that you see like some blow darts coming in.
It's not one at a time. It's everybody's going at once. It's gonna be real bad.
No, I think it's just that she actually missed us already. The attempts have been made; they've been missed.
I thought that was just a backfire out on the street.
That's what happened to my brakes, Freddie.
So I will go ahead and call it. Everybody, let's wave goodbye. And let me say, there is going to be a after party over on the Discord. Please go out, have some fun, join everybody for comments. Thank you guys for joining us.
Take care, guys.
Wait. Should we plug where people can find us?
No.
Okay.
No,
We're
too big, Dakota. And I mean, like, no, they whatever. It's fine. I mean, based on your shirt, they can find you at the PGA. So we already know. It's fine.
So Dakota had the most baller line of all. I don't want to steal it.
I was waiting to use it again.
I don't want to steal it, but I want to hear it again because it was so good. So I'm gonna prime the pump here. Hey, Dakota, where can people find your books?
Hey, man, you can just look for me at the top of the bestseller charts, baby.
All right,
Ooh, there it is.
There it is. I loved it. So good.
I used that in the comedy panel the other day, and it's been making me laugh since then, so I could not. So, all right, I gotta get to the gym, so let's do it.
There you go.
You would have to find a discreet brown wrapper for my books.
That'll be fine.
Shouldn't even kill us. This is gonna get worse.
It's still going.
Yeah.
Yeah, you stripped live, sir.
Just be glad you didn't take the other one.
Party.
Oh my gosh.
Our super mod hasn't ended things yet.